We will look at 6 types of knots: basic stopper, bends to join ropes, end loops, bight loops, binding knots, and hitches that tie ropes to an object or other ropes. Basic stopper knot.
The first knot is going to be an overhand knot, and all we're going to do is put a bump in the rope. Let's do that again. We take the running end, put it over our hand and through. Leave yourself plenty at the end here.
Bends, knots that join ropes together, different ropes, or the same rope with different ends to make a loop.
As you look at this this particular screen right here, you'll see in the upper right hand corner there's a rope that's fairly shiny, and in the lower one it looks like just a different kind of color. So what we want to do is attach these two ropes together, and here's the coil. You can see the really shiny rope, the newer rope here, and the other one here, the older one. And so let's get to a point where we can see this knot. What we do is we take one end of the rope and we take the end of the other rope and we put them together. And let's take it out just a little bit. Now all we do is grab the ropes here, the ends, and make an overhand knot just like we did with the single stopper. We pull it tight. We want to make sure we have plenty of what we call tag ends so it doesn't unravel on us. And now we have two ropes that are joined together. That's a side overhand bend, a good knot for joining two ropes. This is a very bad one. You may recognize the two ends of the rope. What we're going to do is kind of do an overhand, kind of like you're tying your shoe, and then come back and go through like this. And that is what we call a square knot. Very, very nice knot. Boy Scouts tie them. They've taught that knot forever. There is a problem with this knot used as a bend. I'm going to out just about there so you can see it. As if when a knot capsizes, it does not keep its shape. If it doesn't keep its shape, all sorts of bad things can happen. Primarily the knot will come undone. This particular, this is called a square knot, and what happens is we get any type of pressure on part of that knot, it will come over like this. Okay, so now what we have is this is called a ring hitch, and it's on a portion of the rope that is unsecured, unstoppered, and as we pull these ropes together, or apart, I'm sorry, so let's say that you might be hanging from a point on a rock wall or something, or a tree, and you're using this, the knot capsizes. What happens is the knots just break apart, the knots capsize, it doesn't hold, and the ropes separate. An angler's bend. We take one rope, we put an overhand knot in it. Okay, we leave plenty at the end. Now we take the other piece, the other end of the other rope, put it through, and what I like to do is to kind of turn it around so that I can tie right here. I'm going to tie an overhand knot around the standing part of that first rope. So now I have an overhand knot, and I have an overhand knot here. All I have to do is pull them together, make sure the ends are long enough, and that is a bend. It's an angler's bend. An overhand bend with webbing. This would be webbing, flat, thin, and all we do, as in every other knot, is tie an overhand knot. So now we can see it coming through like that, and I kind of like to trim it up a little bit so it's nice and flat. Looks like this. All right. Now, since it's a bend, we need another. We're going to join two ropes, or in this case, two webbings, or pieces of webbing. And again, all we're going to do in this is to thread the red back through the loops of the blue webbing. So I'm going to go underneath. Now again, on this one, you want to make sure that you have plenty pulled through. So I'll go like this. I come back over, and I think I still need more. You want to make sure that you have enough tag there. Okay, now you can see how we're going through. So I just keep following around, and then you can see how I'm going to put it back through right here. At this point, I have a little bit of a tag, which is probably good for the knot here. Oh yeah, and as I cinch it up, I have plenty on both ends.
End loops, loops in the end of a rope.
An end loop. So you need a loop in the end of the rope. An easy way to do it is make a nice bite and tie an overhand knot with the bite. And depending on how big, that's the loop. I want to put a loop around this object. So if I did it in hand, I couldn't get it around. This is my tripod leg. But what I can do is this, make a overhand knot, give myself plenty of room, go around the object. That might be a grate, it might be something else. Let's go a little bit more room. Okay, and we can go this way, and then just follow the rope back through. So what we're going to do is around, under, and I'll just keep following that original knot, and I'm going to put it right through. So this is an end loop around an object. This is an angler's loop. I'm going to make a loop again, another end loop. Look at this, another overhand. But in this case, I'm not going to pull that through, so I have quite a bit of a tail here. With this tail, the way I do is turn it around, and I'm going to tie an overhand knot, another overhand knot, over the standing end of the rope. So we have an overhand here, we have an overhand here, and now what we do is slide them together. That gives us this is an angler's loop. Cow hitch. It's an end loop that's made to tie around an object. The first thing I do is I make an overhand knot here, come through, leave this open. Then I tie another overhand knot in the end of the rope, tie it. Now, I'm looking for a cow. I don't have a cow in my kitchen, but I do have this tripod leg. All I have to do is go around it, put this knot through that opened overhand knot, tighten this up, and I've got a loop. As you can see, that could be my cow right there, or whatever else I want to make a loop on. It's around an object.
Bite loops, loops in the middle of a rope.
Bite loops are loops that you find in the middle of, you make in the middle of the rope. First of all, because you need them there, or you don't want to go all the way to the end to get it. So all you do is grab and pull. All right, so now this is in the middle of the rope. And again, all I'm going to do is tie an overhand knot, pull the bite through, and that is a loop. And here is my rope going out to the side. It could go 20 feet, 100 feet, whatever. Now this isn't a knot per se by itself, but if you went like this, made an overhand, this is in another loop in the middle of the rope and pull it through, that is a loop. Okay? The problem with that is that it is what we call slipped, and you can undo it very easily. There's nothing, if you put the rope under tension, there's nothing to keep it from capsizing. Right now, I'm going to show you how we can change that. We've got our loop, okay? I'm doing this right-handed because I am, but I want you to watch my right hand, and I'm going to say, hey buddy, give me a dime, so you know where my hand is. My thumb is up. I've made what we call a turn. Let me do that again. I grab the rope, I flip it up like that. All I have to do now is put this new turn over that slipped loop that I just put in, and that. Now I think that is very close to a butterfly knot that's used in alpine climbing. It won't slip, it's going to stay, and it is a loop in the middle of your rope.
Binding knots.
Another class of knots are called binding knots, and what they do is they bind stuff together. Remember the suicide bend we had by using a square knot or a reef knot as a bend? This is the same particular knot, but used as a binding knot, which to bind, I'll pretend this could be a sail. It could be a sail that goes on a boom. It could be a sack that you want to close up without those little ties that you get in the grocery store. It could be your sleeping bag. That is a reef knot, and it is a perfect knot for that application.
Hitches for tying a rope to an object or another piece of rope.
Here we're going to use an object. We're going to use this tripod leg. This, if you think about it, pretend that we're doing this overhand knot, and it looks like we just pretty much come through the same way. It looks very much like an overhand. We have this so far, and then we just do an over the rope and back through. And so what we have now are two knots, or two kind of loops around the rope, but with a hitch. The hitch can be, you can have it loose, but with a hitch, you will actually tighten it up. A buntline hitch is a hitch for attaching to a sail or something like that. In this case, I'm going to use the tripod leg. All I do is I take this over the top, under both, over both, over and under one. Now when you get that timing right, it looks something like this. And then what we do to tighten the hitch, we pull it. So we put it together and cinch it up. And as you get more pressure on it, it will get closer to the object. That's a hitch, a buntline hitch, very easy to do, very stable.